Welcome to the Rise podcast. I am one of your hosts, Steve Schmidt, CEO and founder of Tidal. With me today, we are getting well into the season here. We have Casey and Brittany. What's up, guys? How are you doing? You feeling good today?
Feeling good.
Feeling good.
Yeah.
Feeling good, feeling great. I'm the minority in the room. I am the one man here, and we are overpowered by really great women who are dominating the world in sales. So we're in
As
good
it
company.
should be.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and let Casey introduce Sam, because I will say this. She said, well, what about Sam? She seems like she's really putting herself out there. I said, yeah. I said, she's obviously been doing a lot of stuff. And she said, do you think we get her on the podcast? I said, well, you're in sales. Go find out. I said, let's hit up our own prospecting method. So Casey, I'm going to let you introduce Sam and kind of tell that story. And then Sam, we are going to get into what's going on in your world, as well as get your opinions on a lot of stuff that's making its way around LinkedIn in terms of what's the right way to do things or not, and what the life of a practitioner where people come to you and say, help me, I need help, and we'll start there. So Casey, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so we've got Sam Mckenna today from Sam Sales, the founder of Sam Sales. Sam, I would love, before we kind of dig in, go into a little bit about Sam Sales and how you got started.
Oh, well, one, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. And so excited. There's three of us here, powerful females. Way to go. Way to go, Casey, on closing the deal and bringing me in. Job well done. Sam Sales started about 2.5 years ago. Candidly, I had broken so many records at previous companies. I had, crushed my quota over and over again. And I, just took a pause and thought, well, I wonder what I can do on my own. I wonder how much impact we can have, if we start our own company. I wonder, what I can do financially if I go and start my own business. And to me, it's kind of the ultimate sales challenge, right? If you crush record after record, if you keep, raising the bar and then jumping over it, then let's go out on your own and see if you can really make it when you're floating out in the water by yourself. Sam Sales does a variety of things, from go-to-market consulting, every sales training under the sun. We're sought out pretty regularly for social media and LinkedIn training. In fact, we train LinkedIn on how to use LinkedIn and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So good mic drop moment for us that we are real experts there. And then do a ton of other things, from executive branding, SKO speaking, and basically everything in between.
Are you saying it worked out pretty well, Sam? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in hindsight, you would do it all over again. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a good story. So we can definitely go into it.
Yeah, let's ask about that. So LinkedIn, you spent some time at LinkedIn before sort of the departure into Sam Sales. So I'm imagining you broke some records there as well, and that's why people probably still come to you. Let's talk about that transition. Like, you're in a company that's doing quite well, right? Everybody was trying to figure out, where does LinkedIn fit in? This is pre-Microsoft. LinkedIn was really kind of this product-led growth. Nobody really knew where they were going. We were all in this test ground. That had to be tough to leave, because I'm imagining they weren't just paying you a little bit of money and you were doing just kind of okay.
It was an incredible experience. And I'll tell you, when I actually got recruited to go, work at LinkedIn, and I actually turned down the job the first time. I looked at the organization. I thought, I'm never going to be seen here. It's such a big company. No one will ever see me. I won't be able to rise. And then I was convinced by another member of the team to join on. So I will say that when I got the initial offer, while I tried to play it very cool, I was screaming inside. It was my dream company to go work for. Just the basis of what they do, the principles, all of that stuff. But I think it just came down to kind of that fork in the road moment of, I've done this before. I've led a team, I've built teams, I've recruited, I've onboarded everybody, I've gotten them up to speed. And then, I've ended number one, either as an individual contributor by a mile, or number one by a mile as an executive leader. And so it just became an idea of, I wonder what I can do by myself. It was a tough decision to leave, but one of the really nice things that I got to do was stay on as a brand ambassador and as an affiliate for them. And not a lot of people have that affiliation, and we're really lucky to be integrated in so many things that they do and have them as a client. So I feel like we've got the best of both worlds.
You're probably making them more money on the outside than you are on the inside on the amount of traffic you drive to the website, right?
I think this is an incredible thing too. It's part of the beauty of this. Once you leave, and I'm sure you guys have all been in the same position, that you tout a product, you sell a product, you're advocating for it left and right. But when you leave, there's this whole cohort of people who come over and they're like, okay, tell us, like, what's the lowdown? Do we really need this product? And it's just the coolest thing to say, 100%. I felt like that when I left my previous company on 24. Everyone's like, are they really the best? And I'm like, they're the best. Go use them. Same thing with LinkedIn, right? And it's amazing because now you're seen as an expert. You're seen as someone who truly not only knows how everything works, but you were on the inside. So you can come and give people advice on how it works. And what an amazing opportunity to be able to align back with the sales teams and the reps internally and say, hey, do you know anybody at DuPont? They're thinking about, working with Sales Navigator. And you've got the rep who has like 30 accounts, one of which is DuPont, who says, what? And we're like, yeah, we're going to be best friends. You're welcome.
This is interesting because now you can sell anything. So people are going to come to you and say, hey, I need help with email cadence writing. I need you to speak at my SKO. My team needs more opportunities, right? So when you can go to you got a great site, it breaks it all out very easily once you're on there. So kudos to you because we can tell what you do when you get there. When someone asks you in the elevator though, or, if I always say my kid, if I can't tell my 10-year-old, and my parents certainly don't understand still what I do, but that's okay. But how do you describe that to them? If they said, Sam, what do you do for work?
I think one of the tough parts about the elevator pitch is we try to sell everything that it is that we do in 60 seconds, right? So here's, we train on this and we do that. I think about the elevator pitch kind of like what I think about when we write outbound sales emails. So let's think about one tangible, practical challenge we suspect you have as this title in this size organization. And let's just talk about it and say, we solve that amongst 100 other things. So if I was in the elevator with someone and I saw that he had a, tag on and said SVP of sales at, I don't know, Forrester, I would say, well, tell me one of the biggest challenges you have with training your sales teams right now. What are you focused on? And then he would say XYZ, and I'd be like, we solve for that amongst 100 other things that we do. I'm trying to just bait that person with one thing that I can help them solve so they can say, that's interesting. I'd love to hear more. And I want to hear everything else that you do. So I would go at it from their perspective versus trying to do my tap dance and then hope that fits. I won't tap dance in an elevator either.
But the only reason I ask that is because I find that unless B2B is this weird thing where we kind of live in this microcognism of people who aren't in B2B, they feel alienated from it. They go, oh my God, you guys all just sell stuff and drive Corvettes and take long vacations. And the realistic version of that is like the years that you put into learning, you are not able to give back to people depending on what they need, what they do. And when I look at consultants, I always say there's people who are thought leaders and they can tell you what to do. There are practitioners who not only tell you what to do, but teach you how to do it. And then there are executors. And so like where Tidal's been the past year with us is our sole job is to do execution, but you can't execute unless you train, unless you hire, right? And so we still have the same complexities that plague any other sales organization. I would say our problem is uniquely to our fit is we do sales development and business development for a living. So we would come to you and say, Sam, we never have enough appointments. Teach us how to get the most appointments ever possible in the world. And you'd probably go, well, that's a great place to start. Tell me a little bit more. So how do you handle that discussion? Because I don't know anybody who truly wants less appointments, less revenue, less top of funnel.
I think one of the big things is to unpack what that is. So if you say, hey, we're doing a great job, but we could do more. We could bring more appointments in. We could have higher conversions from discovery to demo. That's probably one of our biggest challenges. Where would you start? So I would say, I'd love to hear about your tech stack, what you guys are using. What tech stack are you using to prospect? And then what are you doing to coach on the discovery calls to demos? What's your ratio like? We talked to someone yesterday who said our discovery first to second call conversion ratio is 10%. Is that good? And I was like, yikes. And so, but that's a great starting point just to get that little nugget. And then you start to say something like, tell me your tech stack. How are you guys using LinkedIn Sales Navigator? What are you doing with the Gong or the Chorus recordings that you guys have? And we're kind of putting all that FUD in them because then they're like, well, shoot, I would have used a different word, but shoot, we're not doing anything with that. And I'm like, great, like we can help you.
We say shit on this show, so it's okay.
Oh, thank God. But that's what we're trying to get, right? Kind of like that emotional response and that like, we're not doing any of that. It's funny, even when we coach reps to do this, we think about like, let's say you had your sights set on like a dream girl, like a girl you wanted to go out on a date with, and she already had a boyfriend. How would we pull her away from him, right? Or pull her, if you were her, and pull her away from her girlfriend, whatever. How would we do that? And so one of the things you can easily say is like, tell me what, your boyfriend does for you on Fridays to like celebrate the weekend. Like, does he bring you flowers or whatever? That's what I always do. What does yours do? And then that girl's going to be like, well, nothing. And then you're going to be like, oh, interesting. And then they're going to be like, well, wait, what can you do? Right. So I know it's a silly example. I think sales and dating are.
I love this so much.
Yeah.
They're the same thing. I swear. It's like, yeah.
Talk about the right
We're
and
just
wrongs.
dating for the rest of our lives. Yeah.
Well, I say this too, like even in our presentations, I talk about this, like if this is what you're doing in your dating life, like let's talk afterwards because I can help you not only with your sales game, but also with your dating life. But that's where I would start, Stephen, right? And I think that's it. It's so many reps think about, and so many, sales leaders think about, let me just verbally vomit on everything that we do and hope that you get our value. And even think about that. If I did that in that elevator pitch, we do sales training, we do social media, we do pop. That person would be like, okay, cool. We have someone that does that. If instead I said, tell me about your challenges and what are you doing with this and what are you doing with that? What are you doing with that? And they're like, well, nothing. And actually we have sales trainers and they're not doing anything with that. So wait, what do you do that's different? It's completely different and shifts the dynamic on its head.
I feel like I just got 10 years smarter in like 5 seconds. I'm like, my personal life's going to be stepping up notches. I'm like...
ROI is a big thing, and everybody wants to talk about ROI. So, I mean, are they always trying to say, well, I need to tie it back. My investment needs to show tangible results. So you can go to whether it's the practitioners like Chris Walker or people talking about the importance of data and how sometimes you just got to turn away from it and just say it's the right thing to do and it propels the business forward over a longer sustainable period of time. And of course, you have things like attrition and I know because I once in a while would say, hey, Steve, can you come train our sales team? I said, I'd love to, but I don't do that. Let me refer you to some other people who do, because I know for me, when I'm laser focused on training our sales team, exactly. Yeah. Sam, call Sam. And it's that environment we're creating, which is honestly, we go, it's just not what we do. Like what we do is we execute, but how much is your team going to learn that's sustainable? How much are you going to learn about how to train properly, onboard, and not attrit your employees? Zero. We're a revenue solution problems today, meaning we're going to come fill your pipeline. You're going to convert some revenue. If you're smart, you're going to then call Sam and say, here's what I got from Tidal. What do you think? You go, hey, let's write a playbook, because Tidal's not in the playbook business. But we're in the results business. We'll give you some good opportunities business. So there's so many partnerships that you have to think about, right? How do you develop your ecosystem of trust where you didn't know everybody right away? They didn't know you. So you might get to know a Keenan or a Scott Leese or go down the list of these people that are known as influencers. And how do you personally and privately select those people and based on trust and consistency, and they can deliver really good results if you do bring those people in to your equation?
I think a couple of things I wanted to mention. You said something really interesting earlier about, the thought leader and then versus the thought leader and the practitioner. I think be aware of that, thinking about how you're going to select the people that you're working with. This is one of those ways. Do you have people that are on LinkedIn that are telling you what to do, but never get to the practical, tangible of how to do it, right? There's so many people that I know that are like, you've got to be smarter and you've got to be in front of your clients more and you've got to be social sellers. Riveting. How do I do that stuff, right? And I think that that's what sets us apart, because I've been there as an IC for 7 years. I've been there as an executive leader for another 7 years. And I think bringing in the not what you do, but then how you do it, what you write, what's the script, what's the medium, what's the timing? I mean, we are so tactical that way. So think about that too, again, because there's a lot of people who can just plagiarize someone else's content. It happens to me every day. And then just say it as if it's their own, but not really understand how to do it. I think the other side of that, how do you build that trust, right? So for us, content marketing is everything. We need to have content out there that is short, that is written, that's in video, that's on TikTok, that, is across the platforms, so that people can see what's in our head and say, that sounds interesting. We just signed a deal with a UK company Sunday, in fact. And one of the people that is inside that company was a person on my team. Actually, we worked together twice. And he has been advocating for what we do for 2 years. And finally, their head of sales was like, all right, let me see what all the fuss is about. And as we know, just like we buy from a consumer perspective, she didn't want to engage with me to hear what we could do. She wanted to do all her own research before she said, okay, time with you is going to be well spent. So it's really important that we have a website, that we have content on LinkedIn, that we think about, where our audiences are from a different medium perspective. I very reluctantly got on TikTok. It has so far no conversions from it, except for I think a few new subscribers.
You say this, but this is how I knew who you were before. So I work more on the communication side of the house, so I'm not necessarily in sales. And when Casey brought up your name, and I was like, is she on TikTok? Does she have blonde hair? And I'm like, giving a description of you, and she was like, yeah. And I'm like, so it's working. So it's me. It's
all right. ROI.
I mean, that was before we even looked you up or anything. And I was like, no, I've learned a lot from her, because obviously working now in this field, I'm like, I got to, actually learn what sales is doing and their cadences and all of these fun terms that they use. But I've watched all of your TikToks and learned a lot. So.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Our controversial. So Brittany spends her day.
I love it. It's working. Look, it's directly for work purposes. We had a good controversial one about cold calling being dead. We can certainly talk about that. I was just going to say one more thing on the ROI piece. So how do we prove ROI here? And I think this is a tough one from a training perspective, because it's not like we can say we got 7,800 clicks. We have more pipeline, directly tied to this. Where I think the ROI for our training or social selling or whatever comes into play is when we have, our A players in an organization, our top 10% of our sales performers, those performers who are usually like, what is this person going to teach me, right? Like, they're annoyed. They just want to do their job. They don't want to be in training. But when they sit through that training and they're like, wait, what? And then they put some of those things into play, those are the people who are going to shout from the rooftops, this was amazing, I got this because of this. And they're telling you, they're tying that success back to the value they got in the training because they want more. So really, if you think of it, our top 10% of the performers are what we know as our skeptics. And if we can get our skeptics to be fans after a few trainings, it's a fish in a barrel for us to grow with that client.
I'm going to talk about something that's close to my heart that touches training, touches your background. The algorithm, just some stats for you. So this is how the company grew for us. And you're probably going to shake your head and say, I've heard this story a couple times before. Went from good idea. Steve wanted to have a consulting company, figured out, oh, by the way, I like executing. I'm not so much of a great planner. Organization is not my strong suit.
Brittany just left.
It's true. Well, yeah. Thank
I drive
God
him
for great
nuts
people in
with
the company. But all this,
good on you.
You make us successful with it. We went to LinkedIn. Grew from zero to call it $580,000 a month in MRR in less than 10 months, held that sustainably, and 1,000% from LinkedIn. Now, there are people you meet from LinkedIn who those people refer you. But if you go back to whether it's how we hired Brittany, how we hired Casey, 1,000% of that happened on LinkedIn. And I don't know if there's a lot of those stories out there, but when people say, do you think LinkedIn will work for me? I'm like, well, no shit. I mean, I'm like, you're asking somebody who it worked for. I'm not that unique. People are doing this all over. The fact that you'd ask, do you think it would work for me, means, holy shit, do we have a lot of education? And everybody's starting to write content. And now what I see is dilution of content to being mostly BS and more of the same rhetoric of have a great day and keep your chin up. I'm like, oh, Jesus, like this is is getting out of hand. And so that's a loaded question. But like the algorithm, like LinkedIn didn't charge us any money. Like we did that all organically. And we paid for job ads, but call it $2,000 the whole year. Where do we fit in LinkedIn's wheelhouse of how do we make money off of Tidal and Steve Schmidt and now this new company that merged with Tidal? Like, because there's got to be a monetization there that they can realize.
Yeah. But I think like you did it successfully to begin with, right? I mean, I don't hear a lot of stories like that. I hear a lot of stories of here's the vision that we had, here's how we grew, and now we've plateaued, because we grew based on our network or our referrals from LinkedIn. Now what? But the fact that you were able to make it and convert so quickly, what an insane success story. And I think LinkedIn does work, right? It's just the trouble is you have to be consistent. You have to follow through. You have to be disciplined with this stuff. And these are also the things that I think are required of any entrepreneur, right? If you are not able to be disciplined and mindful about what you do with the core competencies that you have, your business won't be successful. And you've got to think also about how to delegate to people for the things that you are terrible at, like organization. So hence you've got Brittany on staff to do that. I think about the things that I could probably run the ship by myself. I don't want to though. And there's a ton of these things that I don't want to do. So thinking about how do we delegate? How do we hire people that can do the things that don't necessarily require our brain power or frankly that we just suck at? So let's do that. on the LinkedIn front, it's all about content. It's about building out an audience. It's about giving something meaningful. But I'll tell you, I think some people fall into the trap of the vanity metrics. They get so excited by the amount of followers they have. They talk about this. I grew my followers from 1,000 to 10,000 in 6 days. Riveting. Great. Maybe you bought them. Who knows? But then you've got the other thing of like the engagement, right? They live for the engagement. But to your point, if they're sharing things that are just like emotional and fluffy and have a lovely day and eat a good breakfast, whatever, people are going to get excited about that for a little while. And then they're going to be like, you're not teaching me anything. I'm getting the hell out of here. So I think that's also how we've maintained such a consistent audience is we're actually teaching you something, right? There's some inspiration. There's some fluffy stuff. There's, talking about, I don't know, like I gave a tip about my laptop this weekend, which got insane at like 100,000 views. People are excited about my laptop battery. But, you have to train. You've got to give something. You've got to give your thought leadership. And one more thing on that, everyone's like, you give everything you do for free. On LinkedIn. Sure. If you don't want to spend a dime on anything Sam Sales, you can piecemeal basically everything we train on by just looking at our old LinkedIn posts. We hope that eventually you'll become a subscriber or that you'll buy something from us. But I think you have to also do that so you can build trust. And then you can get someone like our UK client who says, this makes sense. I don't want to tell my teams how to do it. You come do that for us, right? That content has to be out there.
Now, I've always thought that someone should have an idea because I save articles. I have a bunch of yours. I save a lot of Chris Walker's for demand gen. I save a lot of Kevin Dorsey for some things, right? And you're right. I catalog them in a Google sheet and I sort them into topics because I thought to myself, I can build a complete LMS based off of free content put forth by other people. You've got demand gen, content marketing, top of funnel, execution, discovery, and like you literally could build it. It's right there. I'm surprised somebody hasn't thought of an app that says bookmark these, tag them, and then we can put these into a repository so you can build your own content library. And then you have an influencer marketing for training market out there. And that's when I think monetization. I don't think that LinkedIn has adapted any of the influencer marketing I thought they would in 2022. I talked about it with Alex Sheridan. I'm so surprised that it's not hit LinkedIn more. And I fear a little bit when it does. And I see, not that you would do this, Sam endorsing Gong and you getting a percentage of, money for the clicks or whatever. But it's definitely been something that was approached by me. Somebody offered $250 to mention their hiring system in a post I did as an experiment. They deposited the money within an hour and the post was terrible, but it got 84 likes and it got what they needed. And I said, holy shit, this is real. People are doing it. What is your view on that? And is it being adopted and should it be adopted to what scale?
I think I've got a different point of view, I think, than most. So for me, I think that the sponsored content, the marketing, all of that, I think is appropriate everywhere but LinkedIn. I feel like LinkedIn is just it's true to who you are. It is your platform to talk about things. It is a place where people trust you, and you're relevant on LinkedIn until you're not relevant. And so if you start just being that person who's like, I'd like to vouch for Gong or whatever. I think that's where your audience is going to kind of leave you. Now, we totally do sponsored content. We sponsor stuff in our emails all the time. People pay us, to come and speak at their events so that they can use, me basically as bait. Like I will do that all day long. The LinkedIn piece feels a little just dirty to me, I think. One, because it's new, and then two, it's not my personal jam. Now, again, I know people have worked really hard for their followerships. They're willing to monetize that, and that's cool. Okay, I will say, let's also just think about something. There's a lot of people out there who are takers and takers and takers. And we've got to just think about, are we a giver and a taker? Do we have balance in terms of what we do? And it's funny that you mentioned Gong because we've got I was recently part of a book that a bunch of women that came together. It was really awesome, Heels to Deals. And one of the authors of the book had asked somebody at Gong and said, would you be willing to post on our behalf, and celebrate the book that's coming out? Now, this woman on the flip side had always supported Gong, always supported this person, tagged that person in a bunch of posts. And the person wrote back and said, sure, for $750. Let's find a balance. If somebody is doing something kind for you regularly and paying it forward, it's our responsibility, in my viewpoint, to pay it back. So just make sure that there's a balance there, whether or not you end up taking money one way or the other.
I heard a dirty little rumor that somebody about 2 years ago formed a cohort because of their following. And they said $1,000 a month and you can join the cohort and I will comment and like on every post you make. And I broke the semantics on it. I said, that person, if true, was making about $100,000 a month to go like people and be active in their posts, which was actually his assistant doing all the work. And people were more than willing to pay for it. And I thought, A, I hate pods. B, I really hate that idea because I can't find any more. It felt dirty to even think that that is there. And then I thought, well, shit, I don't know if there's a business model there, but it just felt dirty to me.
I will say, so one of the lines of business that we have is executive branding. And so on LinkedIn, we have all these executives, SVPs, C-suites, et cetera, some at LinkedIn, some at Oracle, Cisco, these enormous organizations, entrepreneurs by themselves, chief legal officers who don't have time to write their own content. And they have absolutely no idea how it works, what they should write, how the algorithm works, all that crap. So we will write an editorial calendar for them. We'll interview them. We'll put this together. And then all they have to do is basically post exactly as we tell them to post on the days and the times and all that stuff. I will say, part of our mantra is to not give you what you paid for, but to always give you more than you paid for. And that's exactly one of the things that I will do is go and comment, I'll tag other people in, I'll try to bring them into the conversation. It's not something that you're paying me to do, but it's something that I just want to do out of the goodness of my heart to make sure that you succeed and to give you additional ROI. We have to think about that, and I think this is something that most people are not mindful of. I know Amy Volas is great at this, just thinking about who pays it forward, in their posts, who's always commenting. I've got a list of people who, I don't know, have 750 connections, but they're always commenting on my stuff. They're always trying to participate. I make a little list of them, and I just try to think every couple of weeks, let me go and see what they've posted recently, because they never show up in my feed, and let me go and contribute something. And I'll tell you, people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you commented on my post today. I'm so grateful. And I'm like, you got it. What a nice thing to do. I think we can all be better humans.
Yeah, and you often forget about the people, right, that aren't on your feed all the time.
Totally.
I see the same people all the time, and I'm like, I need something different, and then you have to go hunting for it, right? Yeah. So that's such a good idea.
If you're not using the little bell feature yet, it's only available on desktop. But if you go to people's profiles that you love, just hit their little bell on their profile, and then you'll get a notification every time they post. That's also how I started to make sure I keep tabs of those people.
The giving it back thing is huge. I also have found, I will say, Sam, whether it's earlier on in Jake Dunlap. I mean, Jake Dunlap, the funny story there is 3 years ago, I interviewed to be an AE for him, and he didn't hire me. Oh. And I always say, I remember distinctively because I sent him 3 follow-up videos, and I'd be like, he's watching my video now. And now I'm like, he hired Tidal, and it's interesting because all those people were people that I saw from afar, looked to be like they knew what they were talking about, but mostly it was the people they would interact and comment with. So whether it was Scott Lees, you, KD, Amy Volas, Keenan, Josh Braun, I always say the top 10, right? And Justin Welsh shows up in my feed, but someone else's top 10, like Brittany's, would look, thankful for her, way different than mine, right? Because she does not care about any of that stuff other than she works there, but it's not the fire in her belly when she gets up and she goes, oh yeah, B2B sales tips. She's thinking, how do I structure the way that this looks? And so I think you nailed it, is the people you associate yourself with, they're indirectly saying, well, if they know Sam, then I trust them a little bit better, because obviously people trust Sam and she puts herself out there and no one's burning her house down in flames yet online, right? Which we can talk about that another time, because with the good comes the bad, right?
Totally.
So how does that look? It's a world of reciprocity, if I understand it. You seem to have a very good moral and ethic code where you're going to say, I'm just going to do what feels right versus what is a forced engagement, right?
I think that, this might sound a little pessimistic, but what I find more often than not is that people really are out for themselves. So, they're here for what you can do for them, how you can serve a purpose for them and help them advance. And the people who are willing to, do right by you and support you, even if they're not getting the business, even if they're not involved, even if they don't win, are far and few between. Again, I say that about Amy. Amy is always a giver, always thinking about making sure that there's a balanced approach. And we were talking about this the other day. We, have known each other only for, 2.5, 3 years, not very long, but our, support of each other has been so consistent. It's not like we were shiny object excited about each other and then we moved on to the next hot thing. But I think also I don't know if you've had Todd Capone on the show. But I was exchanging emails with him today. He had a great lead for me, and he's like, I think they really want me. This isn't my niche. It's your niche. I'm going to see if if I can sell them on hiring you instead. And so I wrote back and I was like, happy to. If they don't want, if they're okay with not having Todd, fantastic. If they really want Todd, if I can help you with some creative ideas or just some thoughts of what I would put in the presentation to help you, just let me know. I'm not getting paid a dime for that. There's no, anything in it for me other than just saying like, hey, can I buddy up and, give you some pointers to help you out? And I think, he hasn't written back yet, but I suspect that he was probably like, well, that's weird. Like, she just wants to help me out of the goodness of her heart. Like, there's intrinsic, just a need to help people. And that's who I am through and through. But I think that's also kind of something that makes us unique. I don't know if you spied this on our website, but we did a charity event last year. So in 2020, we gave away $10,000, to charity from our business. Like, great. And I just thought, like, how can we be smarter? What else can we do to raise more money? And I basically said, I'm going to monetize my network. And so I asked 20 people that I knew, VPs at TransUnion, Dell Tech, LinkedIn, et cetera. And I said, will you just sit on a panel for 90 minutes and I'm going to raffle off 5-minute slots to pitch you guys. So basically every person would have 5 minutes to pitch 20 of the most drool-worthy executives in sales with millions and millions and millions of dollars of budget at their disposal. And we raised over $50,000 doing that. We'll do it again this year, but I paid for it, right? So basically the money we would have given away went to our staff, went to everything that we had to do to put it on. But it went so much further just because we were a little bit smarter and we made impact to 4 incredible charities. I think that's what people love about working with us too. They know that it's not $1 spent to line our pockets. It's $1 spent that'll probably go to benefit somebody else. And that's one of 100 things we do every year.
We're all just stunned. We're all like, well, I got to reevaluate my life after this conversation. And
shit.
Jeez. Okay. Literally, we're all just sitting here like, oh, well, huh.
I think you're going to stand out because of who you are. And it sounds like you hire people. I want to talk about how you find people to work for you, because we were prospected in a very, very positive way by a girl, and she and I grew up in the same state on farms next to each other. She's like, you're from South Dakota. I'm from Selby. And I'm like, and she was like, and I live in England and I work for Sam. And I'm like, holy shit, like I'm getting triangulated here. This feels so weird. And it was personalized and it wasn't bullshit templates. And I was like,
show me you know me.
They do. This is so weird. Yeah.
Show me you know me.
She executed flawlessly, and I was like, oh, damn it. Someone who says what they do, they do. This ruins everything. How do you hire people? Do they come to you and say, I want to work for you? How does that happen?
I think we do something, again, super different. A million years ago, I was a military spouse. So my former husband was an officer in the Army. I was very reticent to get into the military life. I always had a bad perception of it, like it's blue collar, it's where uneducated people go. Holy hell, was I wrong. And I think the thing that really stood out to me was the military spouses. So when I was stationed abroad in Germany for 3 years, we had, one of the former number 2s at Fannie Mae, who literally made financial decisions that our country relied on, who was completely bored out of her noodle and doing absolutely nothing while her husband was deployed. Multiple master's degrees, people who were, legends in corporations before that were just in Germany for 15 months while our husbands were deployed. And it really stood out to me the lack of opportunity that there is for military and expat spouses, because they need flexibility and because they live in random places. So 70% of our staff is military and expat spouses. Kia, who prospected you, was a legend inside of financial services working for JP Morgan Chase. I mean, we don't deserve a single person we have on our team. It's unbelievable the things they used to do. Our head of enablement, who now trains BDRs and the likes, used to be a director of PR and communications for multiple senators on the Hill. And it's great. When I pulled her over, she was like, I can't even spell the word sales, let alone do it. And I'm like, yeah, come on over. And she's like, well, if I can sell politicians to the public, she's like, I can probably sell, BDR.
The ultimate sale.
The ultimate sale. But that was one thing that we looked for. It's a core driver. And then 2, I think we're very, very picky about who we hire. We want to make sure you have the right personality, that that you're here to make a difference in the world, that you're not just here for $1. And it's just been an incredible thing to watch and behold. But that's the key. Number 1 is look for that military spouseness.
Well, Sam, I can totally relate on that. Yeah, I feel like you're speaking directly to me. My ex-husband, he's an Air Force pilot. He's deployed right now. And I was in the civil service. I worked in the Air Force in public affairs for a solid 6 years and can totally relate to everything that you're talking about right now.
Well, thanks, Fac, for your service. Actually, there's a great article I'll send you afterwards. We were just all reading over the weekend, but yeah, it's mind-boggling to me. You know, you've got these people at your disposal, and I think now it's a better environment because everything's remote. I think it was like 1 in 67 jobs is remote now. That was the latest LinkedIn data. But I think we've got to bridge a gap also from a tech perspective of letting military spouses know what's available. I'm part of some of the Facebook groups, and everybody's like GS, and I'm like, forget GS, like come work for tech, right? You'll make twice as much, and sky's the limit.
We often talk about something very weird. I want to get your thoughts on this. I'm going to divert the attention from this. Brittany has a whole plan on how she can get to prison. She thinks prison's awesome.
We're really pissed.
Steve, we've talked about this multiple times. If we talk about it, it's meditated, and I don't. It doesn't execute well.
She shouldn't be able to share this.
So this is, I
who
just
do we
wanted to
want
bring
to
it up. We're exactly. Every day I'm like, and she's got a whole plan on how she's going to get through prison. And I'm like, is this like a military thing where you're so smart, like you've figured out your whole prison life before it ever happens?
Oh my God.
That is so
I want to know your prison name too.
Yeah, Brittany, give us we'll go back into sales, but let's divert into this prison fantasy real quick because it's a hot take.
Fantasy.
What? Yeah.
Well, once,
Casey's
as we've discussed, I can't discuss the details because then it's premeditated and then nothing will go as planned. They're going to, ask me a whole bunch of questions. So I'm going to completely divert this conversation. I have more intense questions because this has been mind-boggling to me this morning. And I would love to know what y'all's take on grilled cheese. If you said,
I like that.
Hey, Sam, I'm going to have a grilled cheese for lunch today. What would you say?
So bloody jealous.
You'd be like, yeah, that sounds good. Now, if I said, hey, Sam, I'm going to have cheesy bread for lunch today, you would probably look at me like I had 15 eyeballs. Like, that's not a full meal. You can't eat cheesy bread for lunch. But it's the same thing if you really think about it. It's just 2 slices of bread with some cheese in between and you grill it. And so I've been wondering all morning about, I'm like, man, I can tell people I feed my kid, like, oh, yeah, I gave her grilled cheese for dinner, and they're all happy. But if I said, oh, yeah, I fed me some cheesy bread last night, it's frowned upon. And so I'm curious how y'all feel about this cheesy bread situation.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Stuart.
Clearly, I'm a very deep person,
So grilled cheese, I dip it, I dab it in ketchup, right? So ketchup, we don't say ketchup.
Why?
And we do ketchup. I know, and it's like tomato soup. It's not you good. Heat up the ketchup.
Must be a
South
Dakota
thing. I don't know. And then you fried it in lard, and you made sure each time was like really burnt. So we had like the extra fatty grilled cheese.
Okay. You and I clearly have not met before, because if you told me that you were having cheesy bread for dinner, I'd be like, that sounds amazing. Like right on. We did a dinner at my girlfriend's house this weekend. We were having, we ordered all the sushi, and my other friend doesn't eat sushi. So she brought in tacos, and I was like, bring me some tacos as well. And we ended up having to divert to pizza instead of sushi. But the birthday girl was like, wait, were you going to have sushi and tacos? And I was like, have we met? Like, yeah, of course. I feel like I eat like Michael Phelps. Thank God my metabolism is still high, but I'm just like I must have a ringworm, TMI. There's got to be something, some plant or something living in there. It's messed up.
I think they call it stress of a founder. The stress of a founder is like equivalent to ringworm in terms of weight loss. Any other comments on grilled cheese before I bring the audience back into something sales related? We went from prison to grilled cheese back to an algorithm question. That's good
full
content,
circle,
right?
Yeah.
That's content.
I like it.
Algorithm. Let's do it.
Good. Okay, everybody's caught up on algorithms. You get to TikTok, the algorithm works differently. You go to Instagram Reels differently. LinkedIn, everybody says you got to engage and get comments within the first magical hour. Should people even care about the algorithm and worry about if a photo or a video is better, or should they just do whatever they think people will receive well, or whatever they want, which isn't the right answer all the time? Because I think that playing with the algorithms, like playing with the mystery bottle, we have no idea what it is. I think we just learn about it from people who think they've cracked it, and then by then it's too late.
Yeah, here's my advice. So I will say that the people who go on LinkedIn and say, "Don't worry about the algorithm. You do you. Just be authentic. Whatever." It's kind of horseshit. And here's why. You can't stand it. Here's the thing. We don't know the ins and outs of every 16 little pieces of things that you're supposed to do every single day for the algorithm, but we know some of the basics, right? And so I look at this exactly like, well, I'm going to work out a bunch. Do I really need to care about my diet? Yeah, you need to care about your diet. So if you go and work out and then you leave the gym and you eat a pint of Haagen-Dazs, I'm telling you, it's not going to work. Your effort's going to be there, but you're never going to see the results. In fact, you'll probably just continue to gain weight. So here's what we need to think. We just need to know, don't eat the Haagen-Dazs. Like, that's it. Eat some protein afterwards. Just something simple.
Well, that's easier said than done.
I know.
Love the Haagen-Dazs.
Again, back to the grilled cheese. That is my weakness. I have literally documented. I have over 12 kinds of cheese literally in my fridge. I'm originally from Switzerland. It runs through my veins. That's what I have. It's like goo and not blood. Anyway, so we need to think about some basics, right? And I think what you just need to think about first is like, what audience gives a damn, what LinkedIn rather gives a damn about. And here's what they give a damn about: that you come to the platform every single day, that you stay on for as long as humanly possible, and that you increase your dwell time. So they want to look and see that you're reading posts, that you're sticking around. And if you engage with other people, they're going to reward you for that, right? So they're going to give you your post exposure. So that's basically it. Think about that. These are simple things that we can do. Don't hit the share button. Don't put your link in a post. Don't comment yourself 10 times for your own first comment. Don't do a pod, for crying out loud. It's just simple things like that we can do to make sure we're smart. And I'll give you just the easiest, LinkedIn algorithm, one of the things that we sell in our subscriptions, but you get more value, you get more points from LinkedIn if somebody clicks see more in your post rather than clicking a like or a heart or whatever. Why? Because it increases that person's dwell time. So what you want to think about is, if you do a post without a picture, you've got 5 lines of text to use before the see more comes up. If you've got a picture, it's 3. So don't be clickbaity. Don't be that jackass who's like, oh my God, it was the worst day of my life. Enter. I didn't know what I was going to do. Oh my God. Right? Instead, just think look at my posts for inspiration. You will see that I always structure them in a way that's courteous and polite, but makes you say, what happened? And then click the see more. So that's all you need to do.
I'm a sucker for those. I told Brittany this. I said, I'm the carousel guy. If there's a if I'm on like CNN or whatever, I click on it and they're like, man finds bear by the river. I'm like, holy shit. I'm going down and they're like, and then he took his coat and covered it. And you're like, oh my God, it gets good here. But at the end, it's just like the guy maybe, or maybe not, got a dog that was maybe by a river that looks like 7 different dogs in the photos. I'm like, why do I even go there? Like,
no, mine's the, see what this like hot 90s celebrity star looks like today. And it's like, you have to go through like 68 images first. And I'm like, come on. I still fall for it though. It's the worst. Yep. I will say there was one that I did a couple of months ago where I just did we got an email from our client and the email said, I was so shocked. And so we put that, in like the five lines. And then as soon as you hit see more, I said, all right, that was a little clickbaity. And then I did the little, female hat tip. Have some fun with it too, right? If you're going to do stuff like that, call yourself out. Use some self-deprecating humor. I'm all about it.
Well, it's, to your point, I think it's, what I've learned is videos deliver impact. And that's usually where someone comes in, and Casey gets so sick of it, is, where'd you hear about it? It's like, well, it was a video with Steve and, blah, blah, blah. She's like, great, fantastic, roll the tape. But that's what they reference, versus a text post often isn't referenced as a reason when they come in to a lead, right? So business-wise, revenue-wise, the video seems to deliver impact. When we talk about cold calling and deliver data, people freak out about data. They love data. They love numbers. We all secretly want to be data scientists. And if we give them 3 points and we had a 12% connect rate, which converted, and they're like, show me how you did that. We're like, great, here's how we did it. But I know they'll never do it anyways, which is why you give it away for free. Is people say, well, wouldn't you want to charge money for that? I said, they'll never do it anyways.
Exactly.
A few will.
Yeah.
It's that discipline of implementing what Sam says, what Josh Braun says might be a good opener. And everybody goes, oh, I like it. And I'm like, but did you ever apply it once in your life? don't ever try and tackle Beck Holland's Flip the Script on your own, because it's like, it is so complex and it's effective. But I'm always like, guys, if you're going on Beck Holland, go all in and take a training and pay her money, because you can't just read a website and get what she's doing there, because it works, and it's really driven on psychology.
Yeah.
And that's where I go, man, the tip of the iceberg isn't the easy light going, yeah, I make cold calls too. Woo. It's like, how do I peel apart myself, look inside, be self-aware enough to know, yeah, my cold calls suck. And when I listen to this, I'm going to try it. And no one else in my company might adapt it, but it will benefit me. And then all of a sudden my manager goes, Casey, what are you doing? She goes, I'm doing this little thing with Josh Braun. They go, call Josh Braun. We'll pay him a bunch of money because we want to make everybody just like you. Just make sure he gives us the best deal possible. And that's where I see where deals come in versus the CEO sees it, because usually they're not on LinkedIn as much if they're not leading a company like you. And they hear about it from their employees, right?
Yeah, totally.
Or their network.
You've got to think about that too from a content perspective. So like kind of back to monetizing on LinkedIn. We do this for a lot of the executives, right? Like we have some who are like, I really want high level, super professional thought leadership, this and that. And we're like, that's great. However, you're going to get low engagement, low views, low whatever, because we're targeting a very, very specific narrow part of our funnel, right? Let's do that. But let's also make sure that we have the broad stuff, because I also want to get in front of the person who reports to the person who then ultimately reports to the person that has money. So like, again, thinking of stupid stuff that gets you exposure. My most engaged posts ever were that I'm a waiver at the end of Zooms, that I can't help myself. And I feel like it's so unfriendly to be like, bye, and then hang up. I just need to wave. And then I think like getting married last summer, and then I wore white jeans one day and went to Orange Theory, and I felt like we were coming out of COVID. People were like, yes, white jeans all day long. And I'm like, okay. So you need to have the right content, but you need to have some of the fluffy stuff in there too, as long as it's not too much like we talked about. Here's the thing too. I think we can also teach some things that like so a person can implement. They can see the impact of it, and then they'll be like, oh my God. And we're like, we know, come and do it again. So I'll give you just a good example. We talked about how we teach the introduction of our discovery call. After you form rapport, you do all that show me and all that crap. Most reps, 98% of reps, I will say, start their discovery call incorrectly. It's like, Steven, so tell me a little bit about what interested you in taking this call today. I don't know. Your BDR set this up for me. I'm here. We could get a rude response like that. So we want to think about how we change that question. I talked about this in a post on LinkedIn. I had a rep who commented, actually one of our clients, and was like, oh my God, I have a discovery call in 10 minutes. I'm going to try this. And I'm like, report back. And he's like, I will. And we're like, okay. So he goes to do it. He comes back and he's like, oh my God. He's like, I've never had a discovery call that good. And we're like, yay, okay. But what it does, right, is it breeds that excitement that like, here's what I did differently. Here's now how all of my discovery calls are converting. And that boss is going to be like, how the hell are you doing this? And they're going to say, because I listened to what Sam Mckenna says. And then the conversion magic happens.
Yep.
I love it. Sam, I have one thing go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was wanted to piggyback off of your content and finding that relatability. And it's something that I really admire about you as someone who is in leadership, is a female, and is funny. And do you talk about that for a bit of like being able to, typically people don't associate women with being necessarily funny. It's not typically, obviously we're getting a little bit more towards that today, but standardly they're not considered funny, especially once they get into a leadership role. You feel like this need to be like serious, and I'm taken seriously. If you want to touch on that a little bit, because I think it's super interesting and really something I admire about you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think it's in my profile too. Like I'll walk through fire to make you laugh, self-deprecating humor expert. I think, for me, the kind of difference I think is that, again, I'm originally from Switzerland. My whole family is European. We never took ourselves too seriously or always giving each other a hard time. That's our love language. When I met my husband, I would give him a hard time and his feelings were a little hurt. And I'm like, no, this is a good thing. And you can do it back. It's fine. Like the more I want to roast when I die. Like that's what I want for my funeral. I want to be roasted for every, horrible thing that I've done in my life. But I don't know. I've never taken myself too seriously. I think that can also harm me a little bit, right? I think some organizations who are very like buttoned up can see my bubbly excitement and energy and jokes. And they're like, no, no, that's not for us. And that's okay too, right? But it's authentic to who I am. I remember when I got promoted for the first time to VP, I used to do a phenomenal impersonation of our CEO, and our general counsel was like, you can't do that anymore. And I was like, okay, I'll just do it in private. But I don't know. I think it's something different. And I'll give credit to my mom. My mom was hilarious. She mortified me when I was a kid, made all the inappropriate jokes, which of course my friends thought were amazing. But that's who I am. European crass humor. You cannot offend me. And again, I have to be careful because it's not for everybody.
No, I love it.
We'd get along well. I've been reminded often by these two gals that we take it like we like good humor. And they're like, whoa, Steve, you just really, that's too much. That's too much. We gotta, but it's a stressful environment. It does. But I mean, sales is stressful. At the end of the day, you want your clients to be successful, but they have to go do what you've taught them to do, Sam. So how many times do you sit there and go like a parent teaching their fourth grader, like, no, damn it, swing the bat like this. Like we went through this and now I'm looking at you 3 months later and you weren't the case study or weren't the great story. You were the person who, when I walked away, you said, I love Sam, but I never implemented anything she taught me.
This is the interesting thing. So I think a lot of these, again, what sets us apart, a lot of these consulting workshops come in, and or consulting houses come in and they say, we're going to do a 6-week workshop. We're going to teach you how to do everything the, whatever way. And then there's no execution or follow through beyond that. Or I'm going to come and speak at your sales kickoff. I'm going to tell you how to do all these things. And then there's no follow through. And you know that reps want that. Like they want to keep learning. So one of the things we created was that shorts subscription. And I created these video subscriptions because I would get people all the time, reps, leaders, whatever. Can I hire you for an hour? 1, you're not going to pay my rate. And 2, it's just not scalable for me. So I'm just going to dump everything that I know into these videos and go from there. So what I love about this, right, is like we can teach you how to do everything, but then we carry it through. So like even for Show Me You Know Me, it seems like a simple concept, right? Look for something to personalize, find a way to authentically tie it together, and then that's it. But we'll have reps that we teach that to, and then they'll reach out, let's say to Steven, and they're like, Steven, you wear glasses. I like glasses. Want to buy Sam sales? And you're like, no. Like, what?
Yeah, so, we'll take 10. I'll take 10 Sam sales.
Oh, thank God. But so what we'll do is say, okay, now you learned how to do this. Now let's workshop it together. And then let's do another one where you teach me how to do it. You tell me what you've learned, right? So we take that all the way through. But then you think about the Sam shorts. Like we require you to watch 1 of these a week. We require you to watch 2 of these a week. We're going to talk about these in team meetings, whatever. Candidly, we have leaders who subscribe to our Sam shorts and then they use that. They plagiarize it as their own work in their team meetings, which is hilarious. Somebody bought a subscription and streamed our content at their sales kickoff, like a major organization. So paid us $145 and then just streamed our content. And I'm like, come on, guys.
That's one way to save money. They're like, we don't need her for the SKO, just stream her in the lobby.
Not cheap AUV, come on. If you're listening out there, I know about you.
Oh, man.
Oh my God.
And I thought I was cheap.
I mean, that's the
Jeez.
I know, right?
I'm like, stealing napkins does not seem that bad anymore.
Stealing the ketchup packet so Steven can have something to dip his grilled cheese in.
To dip the grilled cheese in.
Brittany, you've been on your way to prison for a long time because she told me once she wrote a blog to get free nachos because she was on between a dating app and a nacho app and she didn't even like nachos. She wrote a blog about nachos. So they would say, thank you. And they would give her free nachos to review. And she just wrote about nachos. And then she would get guys to take her out and she'd show up and go, I'm not probably interested in you, but if something turns out great, if nothing else, I just wanted to let you know I'm really here for the free meal. And I was like,
Steve,
isn't that women in dating anyway? What?
Yeah, for sure.
We can edit it out. I mean, I've done way worse things, but Brittany, you're such a normal creature on the outside and you tell me some stories. I'm like, the whole prison thing makes sense now. It truly does.
Yeah. I mean, my family wouldn't be shocked. I can tell you that. They'd been like, nope, she's been preparing her whole life. She's good eating bread and butter. She can live off the same meal every day. She's good.
Cheesy bread, stolen napkins. You're great.
There you go.
Yeah. She's like the secret little Scud missile over here. She comes as a former meteorologist, college basketball player, and a PR and communications director for the Air Force. And we hire her and we're just like, holy shit. Like she's got a lot under that we didn't know about, which is awesome because it's so nice to get people who aren't from this world because you get a lot of people, but when you see someone come from the outside, they go, okay, what is this going on with LinkedIn now? Teach me about like how people but they just sit back and study it versus just dive right in and become a part of it. And I always say the most powerful thing I heard, and I want to kind of close with this as we come to the end, is I want to get your feedback on this statement is, and this was a previous guest, guys, think back to this guy. I said, whose content do you consume? He goes, nobody, because I cannot consume and create content at the same time. I have to do one or the other. And right now I'm in creating content mode, so I cannot consume anything because it alters my thinking of something I'm trying to evaluate on testing or analyzing in real time. I thought it was powerful and sort of strange.
I don't know who this person is, so maybe I will stick my foot in my mouth. But I think that's a pretty limiting point of view. It's like the only thing that's valid is exactly what I think and perfectly how I think of it in my brain without any outside influence. Where I'm a person who always wants like more, to a degree, more information is better. I want to come up with a hypothesis, come up with how we're going to do something, and then I want to solicit, read about it, solicit it with a few people that I trust, and say, what haven't I thought of before I post this, make this a presentation, whatever, because I, believe it or not, and it was shocking for me to figure it out, I don't know it all, and I never will. And so I want to make sure that I'm soliciting from other, valued sources. I read, all day, every day, as much as I can get my hands on, because I want to take what I learn, I want to process it back with what I believe, and then see if I can shift my point of view if I've got something new and smart.
Yeah, Sam, that goes right off of just like what you were saying earlier, like knowing your weaknesses and being able to identify other people who are experts in that field, because it's silly to think that we're going to be an expert in everything. But I feel like I could tie this back back to the grilled cheese situation. If you limit and you think my grilled cheese is great, little do we know Steve might be onto something. He might be, he's thinking outside the box. He's dipping it in ketchup. How would we ever know if it's good or not?
His perspective.
We got to keep those eyes open.
But see, I actually think that's a bad perspective.
I read the perspective. I evaluated it against what I believe to be true, dipping the grilled cheese in the tomato
ketchup to begin with, so this is a hard no for me. But
you have to dip it in something. You dip it in
make
nothing?
me to dip it in something else. Get a little creative.
I think we just need to we need some butter on your bread, or we need some mayonnaise on your bread. It's like dry.
Mayonnaise.
Like that's what you're going for the ketchup for. I will say though, there's a whole can of worms, but there's a lot of discussion just on the content writing out there. And this is where I continue to read and continue to reevaluate against my point of view. My very extreme rigid belief on writing sales emails is that 85% of it should be written by someone like us who understands data, process, so what, semantics, all of that. 10 to 15% of it should be written, show me you know me, authentically to the rep. But there's a lot of people out there who say no, we just need to teach the reps how to be better writers, which I completely agree with, and that they should write their own content. I completely disagree with that last one, because then you've got Wild Wild West. You have absolutely no idea how to measure what works, and we're trusting our reps who can barely discover and demo to write meaningful content that converts. But that's one of those things, I've got a very firm point of view, but I'm open to being convinced otherwise. And so far.
So you're saying that it's wrong to pay someone $50,000 to $60,000, expect them to be Shakespeare of LinkedIn, also call 100 people a day, and make sure your CRM's updated. That sounds like it's probably you're onto something there. I think you might be right that we might expect too much from that role.
Totally. There's what we're basically doing is taking 100 reps that we have on our team, and we say, we want you to just go figure out how to write what it is that we do really well to the very specific buyer personas, the very specific verticals, and also time it perfectly, know the right sequences, know what to do here, know when to use bullets, know when to close, how to do it. Just go and do it by yourself. And we don't want somebody else to write. We don't want to limit your creativity. Okay, sure. Give me a break. Again,
it's
that's
where paralyzing.
Data, yeah, totally. But I do think there needs to be an authentic voice. That's where the 10 to 15% comes from. The show me, you know me, what we can build in. Just like what you saw, Stephen, from Kia, that was all pre-written except for the stuff on South Dakota, which, by the way, when we came across you, she was like, there's nobody lives in South Dakota. She's like, this is perfect. And I'm like, great. Nobody.
I was just there. That is a true statement.
Yeah.
You're like, I made no friends.
True statement.
And they say these things, and then I'm like, have you lived in a town that doesn't have Target? It's a different level. I used to drive an hour and a half to get to Target and to get Chipotle on Sunday, and I'd have to do it it was like living in. And I lived in multiple cities like that. So you say South Dakota and where y'all live, I'm like, y'all have Starbucks, y'all have Chipotle, you are living life. You have multiple of these, please.
places with
Until
cheesy
you're
bread.
limited to Walmart and like, you know, the Trader
And grilled
Factory,
cheese.
you're good.
This is like mega churches, Starbucks, and Chipotle's, and now it's Chick-fil-A, and that is Sioux Falls in a nutshell. So,
Okay.
but I'm
We're
from
gonna take it
I'm
in
from
Oklahoma, and we're
like
gonna check this out and, you know, see where nobody lives.
Okay, well, I'm cool with it, Sam. We would love to have you back when we get people who are looking for what you do, which is everything from, let's call it high level. When I would say, if I had to pick three things, which I know you're not supposed to do, but I did it. It's, let's say, do you need help understanding LinkedIn? Call Sam. Do you need help with discovery calls, which, believe it or not, if you actually use Gong and Chorus, don't be afraid to actually go back and use it after the implementation and get someone like Sam to help understand whether or not the reps are even giving that funnel a chance. And number three, she would probably do some top of funnel work. I can develop script work for you that we can use, and we can lower your attrition rates by actually training your reps. So if you're out there and that resonates with you, Sam Sales is the hashtag. That's how Casey prospected Sam Sales. Sam, what else did we miss? Or Brittany or Casey, what else do we need to tell the world about Sam? Because she's an awesome resource. She's a badass leader. And she's definitely one of the top 3 females that we follow on LinkedIn.
Oh, you guys, thanks. I think the only thing you missed is if you're standing up or reorganizing your BDR function, give us a shout so we can do everything from how to hire, sales tech stack, content writing, process onboarding, training, all of that. But basically, if you have a challenge with sales or social selling, give us a shout. I'm sure we can fix it, or do what we always say, solve your problem another way and refer you to somebody who can.
We learned a lot. Grilled cheese, a little bit about prison, and a lot about sales. Sam, thanks for coming on our bizarre little ride here. We're getting more comfortable with each other. This is like our 5th or 6th episode. Now we're talking about prison. We'll get back on track. And I appreciate you so much. And guys, this is an honor to be surrounded by so many strong, powerful, smart women. I'm going to let Brittany sign off here because this is, let's do it for the ladies. So Brittany, go ahead and sign off to the audience and we'll say peace out.
Oh man, don't put me on the spot like that, Steve. I wouldn't even know how to end it, but guess we're doing well. I guess that's the end.